Hope you are doing well. In the last part, we saw that Chu Xiao and Yuwen Yue parted again. As the sun rose above the morning fog, journeymen and merchants from the countryside passed by as they sang their tunes out loud while selling their merchandise. Gradually, the sun approached its zenith. Groups of horse riders passed by slowly, consisting of officials' daughters on their way to the temple, armed escorts and vigilant swordmen often depicted in Wuxia novels. Some of these people come up to greet her as they saw her standing in the pavilion. However, she did not see anything. She stood there quietly as her surroundings became noisier, then quietened again. As the sun rose and set, the moon took over as the main distinct object in the sky. It was crescent-shaped and silver in color and resembled a mother's benevolent complexion. The landscape was desolate and deserted. She stood alone. Her limbs had turned numb. As the sky gradually darkened, she could not see anything else but the pale moonlight shining on the winds. Her journey, her future, everything had disappeared. She took a deep breath and lowered her head, shaking her neck, which had turned stiff. She released her pent-up frustration by sighing to herself from within and then burying it deep in her heart. The light breeze swept across the vast plains, causing the blades of grass to rust. Her heart was empty as many past memories flashed across her mind. Everything had become distant. Only a patch of barren white ground remained. Everything that she had experienced the past 10 years went up in smoke. All that was left was a bleak, desolate outlook. She turned around and grabbed the horse's reins. The horse turned around gently and brushed its head against Chu Xiao's face, looking at her in awe. Chu Xiao laughed as she felt a little itchy. This was Liu Xiang, her horse, which Yuwen Yue had returned to her after raising it for many years. They remained as close as ever. She reached out her hand to push him away and chided in a hoarse voice, "Liu Xiang, stop it!" Her hand brushed across her cheeks accidentally. As she realized that the winds had inflicted some wounds on it, she was stunned. As she turned towards Liu Xing, the horse turned forcefully towards the north and snorted at her, wanting to bring her after a certain someone. "Good boy." She stroked its head gently as she leaned on its neck. The horse had aged, just like her heart, which had been scared by countless experiences. "Let's go." She stood upright and pulled her horse again, alone as she walked towards the south. The moonlight shone on her body, casting a long shadow on the white ground. The nocturnal crows were alarmed as they flew across the path. The young lady's shadow slowly faded into the distance, finally disappearing after some time. Perhaps calmness and tranquility traditionally preceded the storm. It was the 7th day of the new year. The city of Chenghuang was still submerged in a joyous mood. A bout of heavy snowfall had enveloped the city in white. A group of soldiers entered the city gates to the saturation of the sentries until they disappeared at the end of the long street. Yuwen Yue entered his residence by the rear gate. Outsiders who harbored the hope of fishing out any intel had their dreams dashed, as the servants of Xinshang court had made preparatory works many days in advance. Yuwen Yue steps into the courtyard emotionlessly as he threw her cloak into one's hands. With a heavy tone, he questioned, "Where's the person?" "He is inside. He has been waiting for a long time." As the room doors were pushed open, a fragrant sandalwood smell drifted out from inside. A man dressed in black robe stood up. He was handsome. The contours of her face were defined. The look in his eyes was sharp and intimidating, yet graceful. The two of them exchanged stares for a while. Finally, the cold look on Yuwen Yue's face thawed away as he broke out in a smile. He took a step forward as both parties patted each other on the shoulder forcefully, then embraced each other. Did everything go well along the way? Yuwen Yue dislodged his sword hanging by his waist, sat on the chair, drank a mouthful of tea from 7th Prince Yuwen Yue's cup, and asked, Yuwen Yue laughed in response. He had matured, having gone through many of life's ups and downs in his years at the border. Evidently, he was no longer that arrogant, unresistant prince. It was good, just that I could not get used to smell of the cosmetics here. On my way here, I sneezed quite a few times. Yuwen Yue replied humorously, "Luckily, you are talking to me. If it was any other person, you would have received a beating." Yue snatched his teacup back and looked at him from the side of his eyes. "At this juncture, you can still banter like this? Looks like you don't hold the man from Yanbei in high regard." Yuwen Yue raised his eyebrows and asked, "You think they are responsible for this too?" "It's obvious." Yuwen Yue laughed coldly as he continued. During the first northern conflict, Song was secretly supplying rations to Yanbei through the southern waterways of Liang and along the northwest. During the second northern conflict, Song cooperated with Yanbei as they conducted military drills near the eastern borders of Hui to capture our attention. There is definitely some unknown relations between Yanbei and Song. It's only that I am not clear who exactly is able to pursue Princess Nalan to cooperate with Yanbei. There is no need to know this person. Knowing their real motives will be sufficient. Yuwen Yue replied calmly, not wishing to waste further time on this topic. He turned around and asked, "How are things at this northeast? How are your preparations?" Thank you so much for staying with me. Please like the video to know the further story of the Princess Agent Season 2. Thank you.